So welcome to my kitchen. This is Cooking Today. Hi, welcome to Cooking Today. I'm so glad you're here. Aren't we so glad it's the holiday season? I mean, I feel like I wait all year for these 2 or 3 months of just cooking and baking and eating. Isn't it just the best? Today, I'm making Drunken Raisin bread pudding with a whiskey cream sauce. Can we just take a minute and just soak that in? Doesn't it sound rich and good and sweet and comforting? I just think about serving this all up with your family or having this out at a holiday meal or a party, and just good, yummy bowls of bread pudding. I just think of bread pudding, it just seems absolutely classic holiday, doesn't it? Bread pudding. Seems like there's like a, I'm thinking, is there like a Christmas carol or something that references pudding? Maybe so. I'll have to think about what it is. But boy, it's good. We should sing songs about it, that's for sure. Let me tell you what we've got going on. Look at all of this, and it smells so good. Okay, we're making Drunken Raisin bread pudding for starters. Cream sauce later. Drunken Raisin. Are you ready for this? We have a couple of cups, about 2/3 of a cup of golden raisins. And what we've done is splash them with a couple of tablespoons of bourbon. Good stuff. It smells amazing. And we're going to microwave these for about 20 seconds or so and let them get warm. And then just stir them and let them sit in that bourbon. And they soften and they plump up just a little bit. Because that's what we want when we have our bread pudding. We want them to be tender, don't we? I think a lot of the time that people don't like bread pudding or raisins in their bread pudding is because we put them in there dry and they're just not as good. We want them to be nice and lush and plump and delicious. So we're going to just knock them out with a little bourbon and make them even extra plump and delicious. I have a 9x13 casserole with pretty good sides that I've buttered with about 1 to 2 tablespoons of unsalted butter, and we're going to set that aside. And then what we've also already done is taken a whole loaf of like a French bread or an Italian bread, and I just pulled it apart, like cut it into big thick slices, and then just pulled it into these really rustic chunks. I put them on a sheet pan, and I just let them toast for about, 10 or 15 minutes or so on about 250, 275, somewhere in there. We want to dry them out just enough that they're a little tiny bit tender on the inside, but a little bit dried out, kind of crispy, because we're going to soak it. And if we don't dry them out a little bit, they're just going to become absolute mush, and we want there to be just a little bit of texture in there. So we've done that, and then we put these just in our big, big bowl because we're going to soak those here in just a minute. I'm going to grab my raisins. Y'all should smell that right there. Oh, so good. Oh, my stars. So we just got them warm, and I'm going to just give them a little toss and probably toss them, every few minutes or so. But they're just going to kind of wait around and plump up and get tender while we make our cream filling. Let's set those right there so we can still smell them. Okay. Now, bread pudding is bread that we've toasted and then gobs of sweet cream, egg, milk, cinnamon, nutmeg, you name it, brown sugar that just soaks into all of this bread, and we have it all right here. You can get the full recipe on our website, on Cooking Today's Facebook page or NWA homepage. But look what we've got. 4 cups of whole milk. Y'all, it's the holiday season. This is not the time to cut back. It's just not. We've got a day for that. It's called January 1st. This is not that day. This is the holiday season, so we're going whole milk. And then we're going 2 cups of heavy cream. 2 cups going in right there. 2 cups. You're going to love this so much. If you need to go run the block or hop in place or, whatever, while you're making this, and do it. Burn a few calories, but You're gonna wanna eat a big old bowl, y'all. This is delish. 6 large eggs that we have just cracked, and we're gonna give them a little whisk, just so that they're combined. I would do that in this bowl rather than putting them in there with the cream and stuff, because they're gonna be hard to locate. You know, you'll chase the yolk, and you wanna do that, you know, just make sure you get it all whisked really well here. Now, I'll tell you this too. I almost always suggest that you mix the cream mixture in a batter bowl that has a handle and a pour spout, because it's big and it's heavy, and you're gonna wanna be able to pour it into our bread. So if you have a batter bowl, I would use it. It needs to be a pretty good size one. We have this one at Unimaze. We have that mint plastic one that I use all the time. We have that in like 10 colors at Unimaze as well, because I use them and I believe in them. We're adding in a lot of beautiful brown sugar. I'm gonna give this a whisk and get this incorporated, and then we're gonna add in a little bit of seasoning and some vanilla when we come back. We're gonna continue on our delicious, rich, drunken raisin bread pudding. This is Cooking Today.
Cooking Today, sponsored by West Rock Coffee Company.
Hi, welcome back to Cooking Today. Oh my goodness. We are making drunken raisin bread pudding today with a whiskey cream sauce. Y'all, I mean, all the heart eyes. You know, people say that all the time. All the heart eyes, like heart eyes, you know, about this delicious, rich, holiday-ish splurge of a dessert. Let me tell you what's in it. If you're sensitive, look away. Ready? We have a whole beautiful loaf of French bread, probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 cups of toasted bread right here in our big, big bowl. And then, that I've just torn into some good rustic pieces, we have an amazing cream mixture that we're about to pour on that bread. We have whole milk, cream, eggs, tons of brown sugar, and then we're adding in several teaspoons of good Unimaze vanilla. And then we're adding in some seasonings, which we have some ground cinnamon, some ground nutmeg, and a good pinch of salt, because look what we're eating. I mean, we need that little tiny salt, you just need that little bit of salt in there. So I have got this in my nice big batter bowl, and I'm giving it a really gentle whisk, because it is so easy for this to splash out. I did put my brown sugar in there at the beginning, you know, with my cream and my eggs, and I did kind of let it sit a minute so that it could kind of soften. Some of the clumps in the brown sugar could kind of soften when before I started to whisk it, because you kind of need to do that. Let it kind of get tender. We also have our drunken raisins, which are, I don't know, it's about 2/3 of a cup or so of raisins. Now, I love raisins. You could do more than this. I might even be tempted at my house to, you know, do about a whole cup or so, because they're just my favorite little tangy bite in there. But we've splashed those with some bourbon and heated them in the microwave for a minute so that they can get nice and plump. We're kind of hydrating them, because you know they're dried fruit basically. Okay, we're gonna say our prayers that I can move this full batter bowl without making a terrible mess. All right, now we have our bread cubes, our big, big bread cubes that we have let dry out. I'm going to take my batter bowl. This is why I said if you have a bowl that has a pour spout and a handle, this is why. Because it's very heavy. Oh my gosh. It's like a fountain of goodness. Oh yes. All the way around our bread. Okay? And then we want to get in here really well with our spoon and just give this all a good little stir in. Now, what's going to happen here is this needs to sit in this liquid for about 15 minutes or so, 20 minutes, because you really want to let the bread soak in all of the flavor and all of this liquid. So what I do is kind of stir it in really well. And then I'm kind of giving it a little poke down so that it will actually absorb really, really well, okay? And then I'm just gonna kind of watch it and give it a little stir, kind of poke the top pieces down because you kind of want to make sure that it gets nice and soaked. 15 to 20 minutes or so on this. And this is what you want to do while you're waiting. Smell it. It's so good. So while that soaks, let me explain the baking method that we're going to do here. You want to bake a bread pudding in a water bath. And what that means is this is important too when you're choosing what piece that you're going to actually bake this in. Now, I have chosen this 9 by 13 with a really high side. You could also do it in like an oblong, like a beautiful, like an oval baker or casserole. Probably needs to be about 3 quarts or so, 2.5 to 3 quarts. This will bake up and poof as it bakes because the eggs are kind of getting all custardy and wonderful and kind of souffle-ish in there. But when you're choosing the dish you're going to bake it in, it needs to fit inside a larger piece that you have in your kitchen with high sides. So I have this enamel piece right here, and here's why. When our bread finishes soaking, we're going to put it inside our buttered dish, set the whole buttered dish down inside this larger pan, and then run really hot, the hottest tap water you can get. And we're going to fill about halfway up the sides of the dish that we're baking in. Does that make sense? And then carefully we're going to move it to the oven. We'll do that when we get back, but this is what it's called. It's a water bath. It ensures good, even texture and tenderness in your custard, and that's what we're going for. We will make our water bath when we get back. Can't wait for you to see. It's great. Great technique for cheesecakes and other things as well. Come back. This is Cooking Today.
Iced tea, sponsored by Lipton.
Hi, welcome back to Cooking Today. We are making Drunken Raisin bread pudding with this wonderful whiskey cream sauce that we're going to make. Oh my goodness, y'all, look. So we let our toasted bread soak in our big bowl with all that rich, creamy, vanilla, brown sugary goodness. And the brown sugar makes that cream mixture such a pretty color, just so rich and hearty. It just looks like fall and holiday and just the whole season, doesn't it? I just love it. We stirred in our raisins that we allowed to soak for just a little bit, poured it into our buttered dish, and now I've got it sitting in my larger outer pan. Now, what I have really good hot water on tap. If you don't have really good warm water, like if you can't get a good hot water out of your stove or out of your tap, you could, put about a cup or so of water in like a measuring cup and heat it in the microwave. It doesn't have to be boiling, it just has to be nice and hot. So, carefully, without getting water in your bread pudding, it's better for it to go out on the counter than for it to go in your bread pudding. Turn your water on just the littlest bit. There we go. And then watch it fill. Am I in? And I'm just going to watch it fill up. I can see it. About halfway up the side. It's coming on this side. And again, this is called a water bath. And a water bath is going to ensure that our custard bakes nice and evenly, has a really good texture. Okay, we're about halfway up the sides, and that's it. Isn't that so easy? My oven is at 350, so what we're gonna do, you're gonna have to be really careful when you scoot that. You wanna take a couple pieces of foil, if I can get this going, a couple of pieces of foil, and tint your bread pudding. You don't wanna make it nice and tight, like if you were doing a casserole, where you would want it too tight. So I kind of give it a little fold up top, and you just really want it to be kind of loose. Does that make sense? The heat that is captured up underneath here is going to cook the custard. And then We're gonna bake it like this for about 35 minutes or so, and then we're gonna take the foil off and let it continue to bake uncovered for another 35, 40 minutes or so. Altogether, it takes a little more than an hour in the oven. So nice and loose and tinted. You can cut slits in there if you want, but since I used 2 pieces, we have a little bit of steam escape option. But if you have one big piece, you're gonna wanna allow a little bit of steam to escape. Now, carefully, say your prayers. It weighs a ton, y'all, a ton, and it can slosh. So we're gonna go very carefully to the oven and then set our timer. I'm gonna set our timer, like I said, we're gonna take that foil off in about 30 minutes or so, 35. You can get the recipe on our website with all the measurements and times, okay? Now, for the cream sauce. So that's gonna bake about an hour, hour and a half or so. Look at all the water. I really was missing my pan, wasn't I? But like I said, it's better to sweep this up and wipe it up and mop this up than for it to have gotten in my bread pudding. That would have been heartbreaking. Okay, so we're gonna make our cream sauce that's gonna go on our bread pudding. You can make this now and it can sit. So I know we've got about an hour or so in the oven, but we're gonna go ahead and make our sauce. So we have a little bit of bourbon and a couple of tablespoons of cornstarch, and what we're gonna do is whisk in our cornstarch into our bourbon to create a little slurry. This is kind of the thickening agent. And so when we pour it into our warming cream on the stove, this is what's gonna kind of make it get nice and gravy-like and saucy and not just so liquidy. So we've made a little bourbon slurry, okay? Then, over here, we have, well, I'll just do it right here for you real quick because this is easy to see. We have more heavy cream, a little more milk, whole milk, okay? Half a cup of sugar. I know, don't judge me, don't judge me. Just try it and love every bite of it, and then you'll be like, oh my gosh, she was so right. That girl, she knows. Hips don't lie. That's a song. Hips don't lie, y'all. Okay, so we've stirred in our sugar with our cream and our milk. We're gonna go ahead and whisk in our bourbon slurry and then bring this just to a boil on our stovetop. As soon as it reaches our boil, we're gonna turn it down and let it simmer. Okay, so let's see, I'm gonna get it up here and get it to a boil. We're gonna watch it close because it is a cream, it's a cream sauce, so we don't want it to get, boil over or scald. So as soon as that comes to our boil, we're gonna reduce it and cook it for just a couple of minutes. And at the end, we're gonna stir in some butter and a little salt, put it on top of our bourbon, beautiful bread pudding. Y'all, this might be the best thing you've ever eaten. Come back, this is Cooking Today.
Rice, sponsored by Mars.
Hi, welcome back to Cooking Today. Yum! Y'all, we just pulled this bread pudding out of the oven. It smells like heaven smells like this. I really believe that. Smells like a good cinnamon roll. You know how sweet and bready and vanilla-y and cinnamony and warm that a cinnamon roll smells? It sounds like that, but we have a big old pan of it. So let me tell you, remember, we baked our bread pudding in a water bath. I have carefully, and I needed a little help, so you may have to have a little extra backup, carefully lifted the pan out of the water bath and dumped the water, and now we just have the pan sitting on a towel because it's a little wet on the bottom. It has gotten beautiful. It's a little crispy on the top. It's going to be wonderful and custardy and bready on the inside. Then we have our cream sauce. We had cream and milk and our little bourbon whiskey slurry and sugar. And we have stirred that on the stove till it's gotten a little bit nice and thickened. And just after we let it boil for just a few minutes, give it a little simmer and thicken, I stirred in a little bit of butter just to really smooth everything out. Ideally, you want to let this cool. I don't think we can stand it. I think we're going to go ahead and cut into it. Let it cool a little bit. It'll develop great flavor when it's a little bit less hot right out of the oven. And then ladle this wonderful, warm, delicious cream sauce right on top. Drink it with a straw if you just get the whim. It's that good. Make this for your people. Love every bite. This is Cooking Today.
Cooking Today, sponsored by West Rock Coffee Company. Kitchenware is provided by Una Mays. Iced tea, sponsored by Lipton. Rice, sponsored by Mars.